Hi, welcome to the video. So today I'm going to play the first four lines of this violin piece, Zigeunerweisen by Pablo Sarasate, written in 1878, and I arranged it for guitar, so you can download both that first sheet and this one on my Patreon page free of charge. You don't have, and the link is in the description. Don't have to be a member. I included on my tab sheet fingerings and picking directions that I used. So let me go and play it for you, then I'll break down the details of it. I had to change some parts to make it fit on guitar better, but I'll get into the details. I try to keep the spirit of the piece still alive. Okay. Okay, so there's the piece. I'll go ahead and play through it slow, and I'll talk about some of the things. This is in the key of E flat major or C minor. I would think more C minor on this. Let me go. I'll get into there's a C harmonic minor scale at one point. There's that last run was G major arpeggio, just increasing in size, and there's a couple diminished arpeggio runs within. So it starts off here. Now, when you look at the tab, some of the vibratos I just wrote normal, some I put in parentheses. The ones in parentheses I'm not really pausing on, I'm just kind of moving through them. And so they're not really emphasized as much as the ones I'm stopping on. And I'd say those are optional. If it feels uncomfortable for you to use them, you don't have to. Not everyone has those ones in. The ones where there's pauses, that's a little bit more common. But there's a lot of different interpretations of this. And if you look at the original music, unlike modern tab, it doesn't include things like vibratos and a lot of those details, and even the rhythmic parts are not exactly what's written here. There's a lot of different interpretations when I was looking through different famous players doing this, and what I put together is kind of a combination of taking from different players, where maybe took one player how they did one phrase and a different player how they did a different phrase, and I combined them together, so it's kind of my own version of it. Okay, so basically starting off here on this G note. And this, it's just written as a turn, which when you see as the standard music doesn't actually show the exact notes you're playing. And what I noticed, if you go to Wikipedia, it says it's very specific notes on that, but when I listened to different players, different people played it differently. It wasn't always played the same. How I chose to play it is a little bit slower on those first two, and then faster on those last three. Then it goes vibratos. And now this next run is kind of unusual and I think cool scale run. If you look at it as if the G is a root, it could be considered like a G harmonic major, but that's not really what I'd consider it. And so if you don't know what that is, it doesn't matter. I'd consider it a C harmonic minor with a sharp 4. What they're doing is that because the fast run starts on G, ends on E flat, but right before that I'm hitting a C, and right after I'm hitting a C. So it's really outlining the C. The G is just your 5 of the C, and the E flat is your flat third. So it's outlining the notes of a C minor arpeggio. So it's going here. So that B note would normally be in the key flatted, so they made that into natural, making a harmonic minor. And then they added F sharp here, which kind of creates tension before resolving to that. So in relation to the C, it's like a sharp 4, or you can think of it as a flat 5. But in this case, since we have a 5 already on the G, I'm going to think of it as a sharp 4. Now it's leaving off the A flat note from the key. And I would say the reason he probably did that is because if I play this F sharp, and then a G, and then the A flat, I'm getting kind of a chromatic sound, and that's not really what I think you want. You want to just create some tension, a little bit of resolution, and then a jump up to the next section, which I think again, makes it kind of cooler sounding if you added that extra note that would make it kind of chromatic sounding part. So if I start this from the beginning, it's doing this. Again, the slide isn't in the sheet music, but I think it sounds good at that. And then it comes back and ends on the C. You could finger this in an easier way. This is one of the parts that I made an octave shorter. It would have gone all the way up to the higher E flat, but since I have only 22 frets, I would have had to pre-bend my last note up to get that last note. So instead I had to still cover most of the neck, which gives you that big ascending sound without having to pre-bend the last note to get that last note. So you could finger this a lot easier if you want to, but I don't think it sounds as good. So if I go in here, I could reach down here for my BC, then go up for the D and E flat, F sharp, G, B, C, and then there. But if you listen to that, instead I spread it out more, which I think gives it that more movement sound, even though it's the same notes in the same octave. So that's why I finger it in that way, because I just think that jump makes it sound better. Okay, so that's that run. After you come out of that, you just come back to vibrato C note. Now that, again, this was I call different interpretation variations. In the actual sheet music, it's just all straight 16th notes. There's no rhythmic variation in that, but when listening to different players, some did it different than others, but there was some sort of variations. That there was pauses, especially this first note in the higher octave than this G. It was usually paused on, and then there was some sort of pauses within there. So I listened to, again, different ones and created what I thought was a good amalgamation of that. Now the next two chords, it's basically a D major and G major. I had to, again, adapt a little bit because while you could do this G, it's basically G and then the 5, the third, and the octave of the G on it. So G, D, B, G. I could finger this way and muffle the middle notes, but that's kind of tough to jump into. And so say I fingered this with a bar and I muffled that fourth string so that the only extra note you're getting is a duplicate of this E note on the second string. I don't think that goes against the spirit of what he was trying to do, because he had the 4 notes because violin only has 4 strings. If he had an instrument like guitar that had 5 strings, I think he probably would have added in that 5th one. There's no reason necessarily. I don't think it takes away from it. So on this one, the first one was just a 3-note one. I muffled that 3rd string. Now I put those as accents, even though, again, it's not really in the music, because the orchestra hits it at the same time. So it really makes it stand out, even if the violin playing this by itself wouldn't be as obvious, standing out. Then it comes up here, vibratoing this note, and then continuing down. So this is a diminished arpeggio. Diminished being, and when I say diminished, I mean diminished 7. If I mean a diminished triad, I will say that, or I'll call it a minor flat 5. So diminished 7 is just all stacked minor thirds. It's a root, flat 3rd, flat 5, double flat 7. So after doing those ones that are emphasized, then it just does a faster run of. Then it goes in a scale run. On these, I see these little pieces, just do that fast run of the arpeggio over, maybe just take that little scale run. And same thing, especially for that first scale run. Really just get those jumps so you feel comfortable with those, because it's not a natural thing that you probably have done a lot of before. So after you get down to there, you then are going. Now that's, again, written all even. It's not, but most players slow down a little bit on that. So I did that too. I'm switching to 3rd finger just to make the vibrato easier. Then it's doing a C minor, starting on it, diminished arpeggio. And sorry, it'll be a whole part. I try to do it a little slower, and then speed up as I go, and then it comes back down. Then it's going to do a G major, and it's going to gradually add more. Now this was originally a 4-octave one, like I was kind of mentioning in the beginning. It would go all the way up to a G, above this. My highest note's D. I'd have to go E, F, G to get that. So I just left off the top octave. I could have ended on the D, but then I wouldn't be on the correct last note. So it's going to make more of a difference if I end on my G note like I want to, like the music shows, and do 1 octave less than if I end on a different note. So in this one I start off slower. Again, it shows it all even in the music, but... And then at this point I start speeding up when I descend that down. Now, on these arpeggios, I doubled up the top note. So I'm actually down up picking here, and then I'm hitting that again. That second note isn't in the music, but it makes it flow a little bit easier on guitar, because if I just go at fast speeds, it just flows a little bit better. So then I just add one more note. And again, I double up that highest one. And then one more note. And then I have to do the bigger one where I'm going to shift positions. So I switch from using pinky to third finger. And then I jump up here. Now on this, again, if I playing it exactly as written, I'd be going down, up, down, down, up. And it sounds perfectly fine going up, down, down. But I think it flows a little better if I add a double note here. It builds up the speed a little bit better and flows a little bit smoother without me having to increase the speed of my hand. So I added an extra note on that G note. Okay, at the end, again, a little bit of slide off. Then you go back to this and play it, kind of releasing pressure as I strum it a little bit slower. The reason that I did that, I wanted it to sound different than the earlier G I did, because the earlier G on the violin was bowed, and the second one that I'm doing there was done pizzicato, which means strumming with your finger, which makes it a little bit more staccato sounding. So even though I'm strumming in both of my pick, I want this to sound a little different. So the first one was more, the second one's more, where I can release pressure on the notes and strum a little slower. Okay, so some details on this. The ones in parentheses, you're not really pausing on those vibratos, and I would say they're optional. Again, none of the vibratos are actually written in music, so either listen to, if you like the way I'm doing it, duplicate the vibratos and the rhythms I'm using. Otherwise, listen to some of the famous violinists do it, and you can put your own interpretation in. So the picking also, a lot of it is, I normally do economy picking, but in some of this, the way it worked out, a lot of it ended up being alternate picking until the end, where I had the big sweeps on it. So, do your own picking, but that's the picking I used, is what I wrote down, and, give that a try. It works on it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, or if you have requests. I've done a couple other classical bits. I'll put this in a playlist with, I did the beginning of Sibelius Violin Concerto. I also did a little section of Paganini's Modo Perpetuo. The Paganini one I did less to play the piece and more to show you how you create your own licks from the piece by using the sequences in it. So anyways, check out some of those. If you have any other pieces you want to request, I'm basically just doing the ones that I like. But if there's one that you like, I'll consider it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.